Hey everyone, it's a gorgeous day today. Feels like fall, but it's slightly warm in the sun, and I thought today would be a perfect day to talk about basil. Now, I love basil. I'm sure that many of you do too. There's nothing better than garden fresh growing basil. It's just beautiful, it's so aromatic. And so right now, as well as selling, fall planters in the grocery stores, you can find potted basil because it's, tomato sauce season and the perfect time to make, to make sauces with the tomatoes you're growing. So what I've been seeing is pots like this of basil being sold at the grocery store. This is amazing, right? They're selling this inexpensive. This was $4.99 at the local grocery store, really cheap, 9-inch pot. You get so many basil plants. If you look here in the base, you can see how many are growing there. They really pack this full. But I see this as an opportunity. So the opportunity is, yes, I'm gonna use basil to make my sauces and add it to my food, but I really would love not just to preserve this, but I'd really love to grow more. So what do you do to make more basil plants from something like this? Now, you could, take it out of the container, split it apart at the base, turn it into several plants. However, another really great way to do so is by taking cuttings. Cuttings root really, really quickly. Basil is a member of the mint family. It has a square stem. Anything with a square stem, you can test that out. If it has a square stem, it's a member of the mint family. Very easy to root in water. So what I've done is, the plant is, when I purchased it, you could start to see that it was slowly starting to produce that flowery top. And so to prevent that, you want to be trimming it. But if you don't need to use it immediately, why not use that opportunity to make more plants? So what I did was I took some cuttings, trimmed down my plant to give it a nice shape. In the meantime, these stems will root in this water, okay, and produce, so far here, I've got 4 plants, 4 stems that I'm waiting to root in the water to make more basil plants for me. These will root really, really easily. It's so much easier than taking this plant apart and splitting it into many plants. I'd rather just make a whole bunch of new plants with cuttings. Cuttings are very, very simple. It's also a lot quicker than starting it from seed and growing it under grow lights. This is something that's already ready. So I'm gonna show you how to do it. I'm gonna show you what to do to get from this stage to this stage. So what you're gonna do is, I'm gonna turn my plant right here. Now, my plant is fairly well shaped, but this one I call it the runaway because it's starting to grow taller than the rest. So I can make some decisions. So here is where I had snipped it previously. There's the top. You can see that right there. And that's where I took one of my the cuttings, and it now has produced 2 new stems in the joint right here. Okay, so I have a choice. I could either cut it again right here at the base, and by base I mean just move some of these leaves out of the way. I can go down to here and I can cut right along right there, and then these two will produce new branches. But I think I'm going to take one that I haven't done before. So I'm gonna look for it quickly here because I did take a bunch of cuttings previously. So I kind of want to take one that I haven't done before. Okay, here's a prime example. So here's a stem, okay, coming up from the base. Here's the individual plant because they did overseed this. Okay, here it comes up. And the way that it grows, just like mint, is it produces new branches at the joint. Okay, so see, it produces main stem, and then it produces 2 leaves, then another main stem, and the stem continues 2 leaves and onwards until it goes to seed. So if you look over here, you could see that, sorry, it's really hard to show you. There we go. I'm just gonna try to tip the camera a little second. Okay, so here's the stem, 2 little leaves already producing. Those are gonna be 2 new branches. And then the stem continues down. So you find the same thing again. 2 little leaves, there'll be 2 new branches, and then the main leaves again and onwards. So you have 2 choices. You could take a cutting right here. You could take a cutting right here, okay, and then you'd have this stem, or you can go a little bit lower. So what I'm gonna do is, I want to have a bit of a longer stem, so I'm gonna take the cutting right there. In the meantime, I'm left with this 2 leaves on each side. These will make 2 new branches, as you had seen it do right here. Okay, I took the cutting here. It's really hard to see all these leaves. I took the cutting here. Those 2 little leaves produce 2 new branches, and it's bushing out. So by taking these cuttings, you're also shaping your plant, making it more bushy as opposed to tall and lanky. And now here's my cutting. So what am I gonna do with this cutting? So I'm not gonna put it in the water with all these leaves attached, because first of all, the leaves take a lot of energy from the plant because we want it to produce roots, not grow these leaves. And secondly, if you're to put this in the water the way it is, this would be in the water and it would rot. So I recommend you take off this leaf, you take off this leaf. You can also take off these leaves. You don't need it to produce a branch there and there. Now it's pruned. Now I would also take off this leaf because that does take energy. When you're taking cuttings, you don't need all this foliage because foliage takes energy. We really want the energy to focus on producing roots and not on producing larger leaves. So I've taken off all the large leaves. You could even go so far as to take these off, but I'm gonna leave it as is. I think that's fine. That makes a nice little plant. And now I'm gonna take this stem and I'm gonna add it to my water glass with the rest of them. And all of these will shortly produce roots, and then those rooted stems can be planted and you'll have brand new plants. So this, so far I've got 5. Now you can do the same. You can go ahead and you can prune, get these inexpensive basil plants. Now is the time. They're really inexpensive. They cost a few dollars. You get like tons of basil plants in one pot. Instead of splitting them up, which is I find messy, I'd rather just keep this large pot and use it in my kitchen. Instead of what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep pruning it all around and then making new little cuttings. Now, all these leaves that I've taken off, I'm gonna use these right away. I can use these in cooking, or if you have a lot of them, you can dehydrate them and use them in the wintertime for fresh basil herb. So it really is up to you, but this does not go to waste. And in the meantime, my plant is happier because all the energy is now going to filling out this plant, producing new branches, making it bushier. And then as those branches get bigger, so these ones that I had done before, like this one, for example, this is now gonna get longer. And then when if I want to, I can go down here next time as it gets taller, cut it right there, and this will make a new branch, and then I can put that in a glass and root it. So I can continuously make fresh basil plants. There's nothing better than growing your own basil, way better than growing it or buying it in the store. I find in the store it spoils quickly, intact in the soil. It'll continue to grow, it'll continue to be healthy, and you can have your very own basil. As the season changes, becomes cold outside, you can continue to harvest fresh basil in your own kitchen. All it needs is a bright spot. I keep it on my counter right next to the window. It's perfectly happy there and it's doing just fine. So hopefully you can use that tip and this was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like my video, please be sure to click the like button as well. Please be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to be notified of any upcoming videos. And if you have any questions about this, please leave me a comment below. And if you do this, I'd love to know about it. Please let me know as well in the comment section. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon and happy gardening.